Hey guys, I'm back here this week again. For those who don't know me, my name's Jesus. Welcome to the Visual Monkey Podcast. Today's topic is Halloween. I know that happened last week. Also, sorry about the late upload. Things came up. Also, didn't have much topics that I could talk about or any ideas that I could share until I just sat down right now. But this actually seems like a really good time to talk about what happened last Friday. Halloween, candy, spooky, ghouls, yeah. Also, I want to say that if you guys have any ideas that you guys want to share or you guys want to have topics that I could bring up here on the show, put them in the comments. Let me know. I'm always welcome to hearing from you guys. And if you guys have any ideas on intros or things, if you guys like it so far the way it is, I know it might evolve later on down the road. But if you guys have ideas for intros or anything that you guys want to shoot at me, just let me know and put it in the comments. All right, like I said, today's topic is gonna be on Halloween. One thing that brings me back, especially this past weekend, I found myself just looking back at times and how Halloween was this year. You know how it played out. It was very quiet for the most part. Didn't have that many trick or treaters this year. I usually just sit out on the driveway just because the dogs just bark and bark and bark at everything that rings that doorbell. So having them ring the doorbell is a no go because it just frustrates the dogs, frustrates me. So I just go outside and sit out there with the candy, and I just hand out candy out there. Yeah, it gets cold, but it's fun to see all the other kids enjoying Halloween. But yeah, for sure, this year was a quiet one. Not that many people came out this year. Quite a few kids, a bunch of teenagers for sure. What are your thoughts on that? Like, should teenagers get candy on Halloween? I don't know. I feel like they made the effort that they should get some candy and stuff. They're going out and about. They're not. There's worse things that they could be doing, except for just going out and hanging out with their friends. Like they're just out asking for candy. Nothing wrong with that. This year was pretty quiet. Last year was a little bit more hectic than this year. I also had like a bigger tub of candy to give out, but I ended up with maybe like a handful of pieces of candy by the end of the night. Last year I filled up 2 tubs of like washing tub things, those Halloween ones, and I filled them up 2 of them with candy and ended up with like half of one by the end of the night. But this year was like I said, it was really quiet. You know, that kind of like makes me, that brings me to the next point about like Halloween growing up for me was so much fun. Mainly because like we made it like a whole family event, like a giant family event. My aunts, my mom, all my cousins, my siblings. We all dressed up. We all went through the neighborhood. We rode through the neighborhood in our family minivan, and every time we get to a block, we all spilled out and go get candy, and then dump it into the communal bag that our parents had, our moms and aunts had, that they would then split up afterwards. The whole goal was to get as much as possible, and then we could split it later. My aunt, one of my aunts actually, she's dressed up a lot with us when we did Halloween. It was fun, and then to have my cousin's mom and my mom, like my aunt, and I guess my mom, and then we had another aunt who doesn't have kids, but she was the one who dressed up a lot with us. We would just go house to house, grabbing as much candy as possible, having much fun. And I remember a couple of years it was like the whole apartment complex. Literally, all the kids in the apartment complex got together, and we decided to roam together for Halloween. We went everywhere within like a 5 mile radius and collected so much candy. I remember that year that we got cash in one house. We got candied apples, and then so at the time this was a little weird for the time, but now it's more common. Like the Mexican candy, like the mazapans and stuff like that. At the time, it seemed like a little bit more rare to get that during Halloween, but it was fun. Back in the day, candy was a lot more like with, I guess, plentiful. Like companies weren't making smaller portions to give out for Halloween and stuff. So a lot of people gave out full size candy bars, bags of chips. Since I can remember, sometimes people would give out Pokemon cards. And back in the day, those Pokemon cards then people didn't see any value in them, but now they're really valuable. The ones that were given out back then. There's also Pokemon cards that you can give out this year, but I don't think any of the boys got Pokemon cards this year. Yeah, the Halloween for me as a growing up was a really fun communal thing, because like I said, it ended up, it started out with just the whole family, the whole siblings and cousins, all of us just getting together and going neighborhood to neighborhood, and having my mom driving us, or my aunt driving us over to the richer areas, quote unquote richer areas, like out here, like in Parker or in Green Valley. At the time, what seemed to be the richer area. We would get full candy bars, cash. Man, cash was crazy to give out for Halloween, but you could tell at the time, like, marijuana was illegal at the time, so you would run into a house where people were so high they just handed you like a five. It's funny. When I became an adult, like I think it brings it back to that. What should teenagers get candy on Halloween? I think the last time I went trick or treating, like for me myself, I think I was 17. Yeah, I was like 17 years old when I went trick or treating. Like, and I went at the time. It was my girlfriend, so it was me, my best friend, and my girlfriend at the time. We went and her sister and her friends and stuff like that. We went trick or treating and got a bunch of candy. That reminds me of a story. That same night, 2007. I think it was Halloween 2007. After we went trick or treating, starting to call it a night. Me and my best friend, we started walking over to where my mom worked. And my mom worked at a McDonald's restaurant at the time, and we were just sitting there, chugging along, blah blah blah, right? And we found a bottle of fake blood, and it was a pretty big bottle of fake blood. And I was like, oh, you know what'd be funny? If you carried me into the McDonald's covered in this stuff. And he thought it was funny too. But the one person who didn't think it was funny was my mom. So we walked in, I'm hanging off his shoulder and everything, and he's yelling, it's like, where's his mom? Where's his mom? Where's his mom? And my mom starts screaming. And then I was like, no, I'm okay. Then she went from concerned, worried about her child, to I'm gonna murder this child because of the scare that I gave her. The things that you do as a stupid kid. Wow. That as a kid, yeah, Halloween was really fun. And as a parent, I think it's different. It's very different. Because when I became an adult, I didn't go trick or treating, because the next year I turned 18. I didn't go trick or treating that year. I took my little siblings trick or treating, but I didn't go trick or treating. But the year after that, I turned 19, and then our oldest was born. So it became a completely different thing. So, or celebrating Halloween as an adult for me, it's very different compared to a lot of other people. Because a lot of my adult life, almost all of my adult life, I have been a parent. I've had maybe a year or less of me being an adult without children. That's it. I turned 18 the next year before I even turned 19. I became a dad. But having Halloween as a parent is different. Well, I don't know if this was the same experience like I guess my mom or my aunts had with just watching a child grow up and experiencing Halloween, or the excitement that I had as a parent, or excitement and anxiety of finding a costume for the kids. One thing I did love going to the Halloween stores and putting on all the different masks and scaring the living hell out of the kids. It was so funny. I loved it so much. And then when they as they got older, they got into the joke, and then they started scaring their sibling. It's fun. That was fun. Definitely, like, having little kids with Halloween is fun and exciting. It can also be kind of like strenuous because, like, oh my god, this kid wants to be a million things, and I can't figure out what to get him as far as costume, or can I afford it. At the time, I don't think I could have afforded much, but we did what we could, and it was fun because the kids, all they at the time, all they were into is just the candy, the candy, the candy, the candy. I mean, me too. When I was trick or treating, that's all I was into, is just the candy. And then it evolved to the candy and being out late with my friends and stuff like that. But now I think this year was our first year that my wife and I, because usually after a while, I think it was probably like 6 years ago, 2019 is when I decided to give out candy. We usually just, we both, my wife and I, would take the kids to go trick or treating. But I think around 2019, my wife decided to go. Well, I decided I wanted to give out candy, and then my wife would go and take the kids trick or treating. From there, they started to have more fun. Well, I don't say they had more fun. I think that from there they found what they identified with Halloween with the most. The what made it more fun for them. And for the first time this year, we were both home. My wife and I were both home, giving out candy because our kids decided that they wanted to go hang out with their friends and go trick or treating with them, or go to a Halloween party, or and stuff like that. And it was, I knew this day was coming, but because I stayed home for the last 6 years, 6 years, I felt less of an impact on me, but I think it was a bigger impact on my wife, because she's the mom. She went trick or treating with them since they were little, since they were babies. Since they were 1 year or a few months old, with our youngest, because he was born in July, and then a couple months later, Halloween came around, and yeah, we took them trick or treating. And trick or treating with them, it was more than just going house to house. The whole renaissance or rise of trunk or treats, where people just go to parking lots and trick or treat from their trunk, in those little small community groups and stuff. We definitely did those with, like, the church and stuff like that. But I prefer the whole house to house thing. It makes it more fun. People decorate their house for reasons, to have people come by and look at them, and or on it's because of Halloween, they'll come by and knock and get a spook and stuff. I definitely spooked kids a lot when I was giving out candy. I would dress up in all black and just sit there, try to be as still as possible. And as soon as they reach for the candy, you go grab them and scare them. But with the kids not needing us around much for their, I guess, festive activities like Halloween and stuff like that, it does get sad a little bit, because then you're like, well, that part is starting to go away, because who knows what next year is going to bring, Our oldest is gonna be 17, and he's probably gonna do the same thing I did. He's gonna go with his friends and or girlfriend and go trick or treating with them, or have a little Halloween party or whatever. But yeah, it is a sobering realization that kids grow up fast. You don't get to have them that long, or you get to celebrate these little things that make your life fun with children, or give you that childish feeling in your heart that you want back from your childhood via your own children. That's why everybody dresses up their kids. Everybody puts, like, certain clothings on their kids, or has certain, like, economical goals for their kids and stuff like that, because it's something that you didn't have that you want your children to have. And when they grow out of it and want to move on from whatever frame that you had for that, it's kind of sad sometimes, yeah, for sure. Especially if you really, really think about it, a lot of it comes up and it gets depressing. But it was fun nonetheless. A lot of kids came through. A lot of kids came through with, like, very minimal Halloween effort. Some was just masks, some was a whole elaborate thing, another was just a kid. It was just a teenager. It was different this year for sure. Makes me wonder, like what is it gonna look like for like years down the road? Like what would Halloween look like for my grandchildren? That's saying if my children have children. I don't know. Like it was a completely different thing compared to when I was a kid to today. But yeah, like I don't know what it'll be like. Give it like 10 years from now. I don't know. I wish I could look down the line. Cause like for me, it's early 90s. It was late 90s, early 2000s. And for us as parents, it was like the late 2000s to early 2010s and now 20s. Oh, like all 2010s and now 20s. Wow, it's just things are so different. Like the whole rumors about people putting drugs in candy, and like drugs are expensive. They're not gonna put them in candies for kids to come through and they can give them out for free. Nonetheless, you still check your kids' candy, just because you're paranoid. Just because that kind of paranoia is kind of been embedded into you. The whole paranoia. Or those razor blades is weird. White people said they even put razor blades in your candy. In my experience, that hasn't happened. Has never happened to me, to my children. It was fun this year. We had a handful of trick-or-treaters. They gave my wife a whole new experience because she sat out there with me. After a while, our youngest called to get picked up and stuff, and then he went trick-or-treating around the neighborhood while I finished out giving out the rest of the candy. It for sure put time into context as far as like things to like you usually just celebrate with your kids, or that you have celebrated with your kids for so long. It's very sobering for sure. I think next year is going to be a bit more drastic than this year. I hope there will be more trick-or-treaters. I hope everything gets turned around and people are having a better 2026 compared to 2025, and a lot more people give out candy, a lot more people go out for candy. It's a fun thing. I think it's fun. I think it's a good stress reliever. I for sure would want to go to a Halloween party again. I think that would be fun. But I think looking at it now that our kids are getting older and more self-dependent or self-sufficient, that my wife and I can go to other places, like maybe a bar on Halloween, or like a Halloween night at a bar or whatever, or a party if a friend decides to have one. I think that would be the change up for us, is that now we need to figure out how to make these holidays that we've hyper focused on our children about for like this holiday on our children, these holidays on our children. I think we need to change the focus onto us, and now that they're growing up, it seems like that would be the better idea. Because if we're just stuck on the idea of it's a children thing, it's just gonna be rough. But yeah. I think that's the next step. Seems logical to do for sure. I think that'll do it for today. Thanks guys for listening to me ramble on again about some random nothing. I appreciate you guys showing up, listening. I would really appreciate if you guys would like, sub, and share this to somebody you know, somebody you think that might like this. Or somebody you think won't like this. Just go ahead and share it. You never know. I'm also starting to stream more often. If you guys want to join me, I'll let you guys know when I'm streaming. I'll start setting up a schedule. That'll be at twitch.tv/Spartan2LTQ22. And then you can also find me over in Instagram at Jesus.A.Quintana.1, or on TikTok at JesusQuintana0. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night or good day, wherever time of day you're listening to this. And I'll see you on the next one.